origins of a great empire. The story of the Persian Empire begins in the ancient lands of the Iranian plateau, where rugged mountains and wide deserts shaped a resilient people who would one day rule vast territories across 3 continents. Long before it became an empire, the Persians were a collection of tribes living under the shadow of older civilizations such as Mesopotamia and Elam. These early Persians were part of the larger Indo-Iranian migrations, and they settled in a region they would call Pars, which later became known as Fars. Life in this early period was defined by pastoral traditions where herding animals and seasonal movement were common, and small communities formed around kinship and loyalty. Among these tribes emerged a lineage known as the Achaemenids, and from this lineage came a figure who would transform history forever. His name was Cyrus the Great. Cyrus was not born into an empire, but into a modest kingdom under the dominance of the Medes, who ruled much of the region through a mixture of ambition, intelligence, and diplomacy. Cyrus united the Persian tribes and led a rebellion against the Median king Astyages. The victory was not just a change of rulers, but the birth of something entirely new, an empire built on a vision of unity rather than destruction. Cyrus expanded outward, capturing the wealthy kingdom of Lydia under Croesus and later conquering Babylon, one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. What set Cyrus apart was not only his military skill, but his approach to governance. Instead of crushing cultures, he allowed them to thrive and respected local traditions, religions, and laws. This policy would become one of the defining characteristics of the Persian Empire and would allow it to grow without constant rebellion. The beginning of the Persian Empire was not simply a story of conquest, but a transformation of identity. Roads began to connect distant lands, trade routes expanded, and cities flourished under stable administration. The Persians adopted innovations from the civilizations they conquered, blending them into a system that was both efficient and surprisingly humane for its time. In these early days, the empire stretched from the Indus Valley to the edges of the Mediterranean Sea, creating a network of cultures, languages, and peoples that were tied together under a single rule. The seeds of greatness were planted not only in battles, but in ideas of tolerance, organization, and vision. As the empire grew, it faced the challenge of managing its vast lands. Satrapies, or provinces, were created, each governed by officials loyal to the king. These governors maintained order, collected taxes, and ensured the flow of resources back to the center. Communication across the empire was achieved through an impressive road system, including the Royal Road, which allowed messages to travel faster than ever before. This infrastructure was essential in maintaining control and unity across such a massive territory. The rise of Persia did not occur in isolation. During this time, other civilizations such as ancient Egypt, the Greek city-states, and the remnants of Mesopotamian powers were also evolving. Egypt was struggling with internal changes, while the Greek world was divided into competing city-states like Athens and Sparta. These civilizations would soon find themselves interacting with and sometimes opposing the expanding Persian power. Thus, the first era of the Persian Empire was defined by its origins and rise from humble beginnings into a dominant force. It was a time of vision and creation, where leaders like Cyrus laid the foundation for one of the greatest empires in history. The spirit of unity and respect for diversity became the cornerstone of Persian identity and set the stage for the empire's continued expansion. Expansion across continents. Following the foundation laid by Cyrus the Great, the Persian Empire entered a period of rapid expansion and consolidation under his successors, including Cambyses II and Darius. Cambyses extended Persian control into Egypt, a land rich in culture and resources. The conquest of Egypt was both a military and symbolic achievement, as it brought one of the oldest civilizations under Persian rule. In Egypt, Persian rulers adopted the title of pharaoh and respected local customs, ensuring stability in the region. However, it was under Darius I that the empire reached new levels of organization and expansion. Darius was not only a conqueror, but a master administrator. He expanded the empire into parts of India, Central Asia and Thrace, pushing the boundaries further than ever before. Each new region added to the complexity of the empire, bringing different cultures, languages, and traditions into the Persian system. Darius strengthened the satrapy system, ensuring that each province was efficiently governed while also implementing checks to prevent corruption and rebellion. The royal road became a vital artery of the empire, stretching over thousands of kilometers and connecting key cities such as Susa and Sardis. Messengers could travel across this vast distance in a matter of days, ensuring that the king's commands were swiftly delivered. Trade flourished along these routes, with goods such as spices, textiles, metals, and precious stones moving between regions. Markets in cities buzzed with activity as merchants from different lands exchanged goods and ideas. The Persian capital cities themselves became symbols of power and grandeur. Persepolis stood as a magnificent display of architecture with grand halls, towering columns, and intricate carvings that depicted the diversity of the empire. Delegations from across the empire would gather there, bringing tribute and showcasing the unity of Persian rule. The city was not just a political center, but a cultural one, reflecting the wealth and sophistication of the empire. Life within the empire varied greatly depending on location, but certain aspects were shared. Agriculture was the backbone of the economy, with irrigation systems supporting farming in arid regions. People traveled using horses, camels, and chariots, while rivers provided additional routes for transport. Diets included grains, fruits, vegetables, and meats, with regional variations adding diversity to everyday meals. Religious practices were influenced by Zoroastrianism, which emphasized the struggle between good and evil, and played a significant role in shaping Persian values. Despite its strength, the empire faced significant challenges. The Greek city-states resisted Persian expansion, leading to a series of conflicts known as the Greco-Persian Wars. Battles such as Marathon, Thermopylae, and Salamis tested the limits of Persian power. These wars were not just military confrontations, but clashes of cultures and political systems. The Persians relied on their vast resources and numbers, while the Greeks used strategy and unity to defend their independence. During this era, the Persian Empire reached a level of complexity and scale that was unprecedented. It connected diverse regions under a single administration, while allowing local identities to persist. The expansion brought wealth, knowledge, and influence, but also introduced new challenges that would shape the future of the empire. This period stands as a testament to the ambition and capability of Persian leadership, as they transformed a regional power into a global empire, the height of power and glory. As the Persian Empire continued to expand and solidify its control, it entered what many consider its golden age, a period defined by immense wealth, cultural integration, and administrative brilliance. This era was shaped by rulers who inherited the vast system built by their predecessors and sought to maintain and enhance it. Among them was Xerxes I, the son of Darius, who would lead one of the most ambitious military campaigns in ancient history. The empire at its peak stretched from the Indus Valley in the east to the edges of Greece in the west, and from Central Asia down into Egypt and Nubia. This immense territory contained dozens of cultures, languages, and traditions, yet it functioned with remarkable cohesion. The Persian kings ruled from multiple capitals, including Susa, Babylon, and the ceremonial city of Persepolis, where grand ceremonies reinforced the unity of the empire. The architecture of these cities reflected not only Persian style, but also influences from across the empire, creating a visual representation of diversity under one rule. The court of the king was a place of both political power and cultural exchange. Nobles, administrators, and envoys from distant lands gathered to discuss governance, trade, and diplomacy. The king was seen as the central authority, chosen to maintain order and justice, and this idea was reinforced by religious beliefs rooted in Zoroastrianism. The concept of truth and righteousness guided the administration and laws of the empire, and officials were expected to act with integrity. During this time, trade reached extraordinary levels. Caravans moved along established routes carrying goods such as silk spices, gold, and ivory. The empire acted as a bridge between East and West, allowing ideas, technologies, and cultures to flow freely. Cities became vibrant centers of life, where artisans crafted goods, scholars exchanged knowledge, and markets thrived with activity. Roads and infrastructure were maintained with precision, ensuring safe travel across long distances. The royal road remained one of the greatest achievements of Persian engineering, enabling communication that was unmatched in the ancient world. Daily life for people within the empire varied widely. In fertile regions, farmers cultivated wheat, barley, and fruits, while in more arid areas, pastoral lifestyles continued. Urban populations lived in well-organized cities with access to public spaces, workshops, and temples. Clothing reflected both status and regional identity, with fine textiles worn by elites and simpler garments by common people. Food was diverse, with bread meats, fruits, and wine forming staples of the diet. Festivals and rituals brought communities together, celebrating both local traditions and imperial unity. The military during this golden age was vast and diverse, composed of soldiers from many regions. Among them were the elite immortals, a group of highly trained warriors who served as the king's personal guard. Their discipline and skill made them a formidable force on the battlefield. Armies were equipped with a variety of weapons, including bows, spears, and shields, and they were supported by cavalry units that provided speed and flexibility. The scale of Persian military campaigns was immense, involving tens of thousands of troops moving across continents. One of the defining moments of this era was the continuation of conflict with the Greek world, particularly during the Greco-Persian Wars. Xerxes launched a massive invasion of Greece, seeking to bring the region under Persian control. The campaign included legendary battles such as Thermopylae, where a small Greek force held a narrow pass against overwhelming odds, and Salamis, where naval strategy turned the tide against the Persians. These battles demonstrated both the strength and limitations of the empire. While Persia possessed unmatched resources, it faced challenges in coordinating its vast forces and adapting to different terrains and tactics. Beyond warfare, the empire continued to invest in monumental construction. Palaces, temples, and administrative buildings were constructed with incredible detail and scale. Relief carvings depicted scenes of tribute and unity, showing representatives from across the empire bringing gifts to the king. These artistic works were not merely decorative, but served as powerful symbols of order and harmony. At its height, the Persian Empire represented a unique model of governance. It was not solely based on conquest, but on integration and respect for diversity. This approach allowed it to maintain stability across a vast territory for generations. However, beneath this strength, there were growing tensions. The sheer size of the empire made it difficult to manage, and internal rivalries began to emerge. The cost of maintaining such a large system also placed pressure on resources. Even as the empire stood at its peak, there were signs of challenges ahead. Yet this era remains one of the most remarkable in history, a time when the Persian Empire stood as a beacon of power, organization, and cultural richness influencing civilizations far beyond its borders. Struggles, decline, and transformation. After reaching its peak, the Persian Empire began to face increasing difficulties that would eventually lead to its decline. The challenges came from both within and outside its borders, creating a complex web of pressures that tested the resilience of the imperial system. Successors of Xerxes struggled to maintain the same level of authority and effectiveness as earlier rulers. Court intrigues, rivalries, and power struggles weakened the central administration, making it harder to govern the vast territories. One of the major issues was the growing independence of the satrapies. Governors who were once loyal to the king began to assert their own power, leading to rebellions and conflicts within the empire. These internal divisions made it difficult to respond effectively to external threats. At the same time, the Greek city-states continued to resist Persian influence and occasionally launched their own campaigns into Persian territory. The balance of power in the region was shifting, and new forces were emerging. Among them was the Kingdom of Macedon, led by a young and ambitious ruler named Alexander the Great. Alexander's campaign against Persia would become one of the most tunisive moments in ancient history. With a highly disciplined army and innovative tactics, he advanced rapidly through Asia Minor, defeating Persian forces in key battles such as Issus and Gaugamela. The fall of the Persian Empire was not sudden, but unfolded over a series of dramatic events. The final Achaemenid ruler Darius III attempted to resist Alexander's advance, but faced difficulties in uniting his forces and maintaining control. As Alexander moved deeper into the empire, he captured major cities including Babylon, Susa, and eventually Persepolis, which was famously burned, marking a symbolic end to Persian dominance. Despite its fall, the legacy of the Persian Empire did not disappear. The systems of administration, infrastructure, and cultural integration influenced subsequent empires, including those established by Alexander and later the Seleucids and Parthians. Persian traditions continued to shape the region, and its identity endured through centuries of change. Life during the decline was marked by uncertainty. Trade routes were disrupted, cities faced destruction, and populations experienced the upheaval of war. Yet even in this period of turmoil, elements of Persian culture persisted. Art, language, and religious practices continued to influence daily life, demonstrating the resilience of the civilization. The downfall of the empire also reflected broader patterns in history. The challenges of managing vast territories, the importance of strong leadership, and the impact of external threats all played a role. The Persian Empire had achieved greatness through unity and organization, but these same factors became difficult to sustain over time. In the modern world, the legacy of ancient Persia lives on in the country of Iran, where echoes of its history can still be seen in culture, language, and traditions. The achievements of the empire, from its administrative innovations to its architectural marvels, continue to be studied and admired. The story of the Persian Empire offers important lessons about leadership, diversity, and the balance between expansion and sustainability. It shows how a civilization can rise from humble beginnings to dominate the world, and how even the greatest empires must eventually face change. Through its successes and struggles, the Persian Empire left an enduring mark on history, shaping the development of civilizations that followed. Cyrus the Great and the birth of vision. To truly understand the Persian Empire, one must return to the life and character of Cyrus the Great, whose ideas shaped the empire long after his death. Cyrus was not merely a conqueror, but a leader who understood the complexities of human societies. He was born into the Achaemenid lineage at a time when Persia was still under the control of the Medes. His early life is surrounded by stories and legends, including tales that he was destined for greatness from birth. Whether myth or truth, these stories reflect how deeply he influenced the identity of his people. As a young leader, Cyrus observed the strengths and weaknesses of the Median rule under Astyages. He saw that power maintained through fear alone could not endure. When he led his rebellion, it was not simply an act of defiance, but a calculated movement supported by allies who believed in his vision. His victory marked the transition from a fragmented tribal society to a unified political entity. Cyrus's campaigns were marked by both strategy and restraint. When he conquered the wealthy kingdom of Lydia under Croesus, he gained access to immense riches and trade networks. Yet he chose not to destroy the existing systems. Instead, he integrated them into his empire, allowing local administrators to continue their roles under Persian oversight. This approach minimized resistance and ensured continuity in governance. One of the most significant moments of his rule was the conquest of Babylon. The city was one of the greatest centers of culture and power in the ancient world. Rather than sacking the city, Cyrus entered peacefully, presenting himself as a liberator. He restored temples, respected religious practices, and allowed exiled peoples to return to their homelands. This act earned him a reputation as a just ruler and set a precedent for future Persian kings. Under Cyrus, the foundations of the empire were established. He introduced systems of governance that balanced central authority with local autonomy. He understood that an empire of many cultures could only survive if those cultures felt respected and valued. This philosophy extended to trade and communication as well. Roads began to connect distant regions, and merchants were encouraged to move freely, bringing prosperity to the empire. The daily life of people during Cyrus's reign reflected this stability. Farmers worked the land using irrigation systems that maximized productivity. Artisans crafted goods that were traded across regions. Families gathered in communities where traditions were preserved and celebrated. The sense of security provided by Persian rule allowed these activities to flourish. Cyrus's military campaigns were also carefully planned. His armies were disciplined and adaptable, capable of fighting in different terrains. He valued loyalty and rewarded those who served him well. This created a strong bond between the ruler and his soldiers, ensuring their commitment in battle. The legacy of Cyrus extended beyond his lifetime. His ideas influenced not only his successors, but also the civilizations that followed. He demonstrated that power could be exercised with wisdom and compassion, and that an empire could thrive through inclusion rather than oppression. His vision became the guiding principle of the Persian Empire and a standard against which future rulers would be measured. Darius the Great and the machinery of empire. After the foundation laid by Cyrus and the expansion under Cambyses II, the empire required a leader who could organize its vast territories into a cohesive system. This role was fulfilled by Darius I, often called Darius the Great. His reign marked a turning point where the empire transformed from a powerful kingdom into a highly structured and efficient administrative state. Darius came to power during a time of unrest and had to secure his position through a series of campaigns against rebels. Once stability was restored, he focused on building systems that would ensure long-term control. He divided the empire into satrapies, each governed by a satrap who was responsible for maintaining order, collecting taxes, and overseeing local affairs. To prevent abuse of power, Darius implemented a system of checks and balances, including royal inspectors known as the eyes and ears of the king. One of his greatest achievements was the standardization of currency with the introduction of the darik, a gold coin that facilitated trade across the empire. This innovation allowed merchants to conduct business more efficiently and contributed to economic growth. Markets expanded and trade routes became busier, connecting regions from India to the Mediterranean. Darius also invested heavily in infrastructure. The royal road was expanded and maintained, providing a reliable network for communication and transport. Travelers could move quickly between major cities, and messages could be delivered with remarkable speed. Along these routes were stations where couriers could rest and change horses, ensuring that communication never slowed. The construction of monumental architecture reached new heights during his reign. The city of Persepolis became a symbol of imperial power. Its grand halls were supported by massive columns and adorned with detailed carvings depicting scenes of tribute and unity. Delegations from across the empire would gather there, bringing gifts and reaffirming their loyalty to the king. Life within the empire during Darius's rule was marked by organization and prosperity. Farmers benefited from improved irrigation systems, while artisans found new markets for their goods. Cities grew in size and complexity, becoming centers of culture and commerce. People traveled using horses, camels, and carts, and the movement of goods and ideas created a dynamic and interconnected society. The military under Darius was equally impressive. He maintained a large standing army composed of soldiers from various regions. This diversity allowed the army to adapt to different types of warfare. Campaigns were launched to secure borders and expand influence, particularly in regions such as Central Asia and parts of Europe. However, Darius's ambitions also led to conflict with the Greek world, setting the stage for the Greco-Persian Wars. His attempt to assert control over the Greek city-states resulted in the famous Battle of Marathon, where Persian forces faced unexpected resistance. Although the campaign did not achieve its intended outcome, it demonstrated the challenges of extending control into regions with strong, independent traditions. Darius's reign represents the height of administrative innovation in the Persian Empire. He created systems that allowed a vast and diverse territory to function as a unified whole. His emphasis on organization, communication, and economic development ensured the stability of the empire for generations. Through his efforts, the Persian Empire became not just a collection of conquered lands, but a sophisticated and interconnected civilization. His legacy would influence not only his successors, but also the empires that followed, leaving a lasting mark on the history of governance and statecraft. Xerxes and the Clash of Worlds. The reign of Xerxes marked a dramatic chapter in the story of the Persian Empire, where ambition met resistance on a scale rarely seen before. Xerxes inherited a vast and powerful empire from his father Darius I, and with it, the unresolved conflict with the Greek city-states. Determined to succeed where his father had faced setbacks, Xerxes prepared for an invasion that would demonstrate the full might of Persia. The preparations for this campaign were immense. Engineers constructed bridges across the Hellespont, allowing the Persian army to cross into Europe. Supply lines were carefully organized to support a force that included soldiers from across the empire. These men came from distant lands, speaking different languages and wearing different armor, yet they marched under one banner, united by loyalty to the king. Among them were the elite immortals, whose discipline and skill made them a symbol of Persian strength. As the army advanced, it encountered the rugged terrain of Greece, where narrow passes and coastal routes limited movement. One of the most famous encounters took place at Thermopylae, where a small Greek force led by Leonidas stood against the advancing Persians. Battle became legendary, not only for its bravery, but for what it represented, a clash between imperial expansion and the determination of independent city-states. Though the Persians eventually overcame the defenders, the resistance slowed their advance and inspired further opposition. The conflict continued at sea, where the Greek fleet faced the Persian navy in the narrow straits of Salamis. The Greeks used their knowledge of local waters and strategic positioning to their advantage. Despite the size and strength of the Persian fleet, the battle resulted in a significant defeat for Xerxes. This moment marked a turning point in the campaign, showing that even the greatest empire could be challenged by coordination and strategy. Beyond the battlefield, the empire during Xerxes' reign remained a place of cultural richness and complexity. Cities across the empire continued to thrive, with markets filled with goods from distant regions. In places like Persepolis, grand ceremonies reinforced the unity of the empire as representatives from various lands brought tribute and participated in rituals that celebrated their shared connection. Daily life for the people continued with a sense of order despite the ongoing conflicts. Farmers cultivated their fields, artisans created goods, and traders moved along established routes. The influence of Zoroastrianism remained strong, shaping moral values and guiding the actions of both rulers and citizens. The belief in the struggle between truth and falsehood gave meaning to the challenges faced by the empire. However, the wars with Greece revealed deeper issues. The vastness of the empire made it difficult to coordinate large-scale campaigns in distant regions. Communication, though advanced for its time, still faced limitations over such great distances. The diversity that once strengthened the empire also created challenges in maintaining unity during prolonged conflicts. Xerxes' campaign ultimately did not achieve its goal of conquering Greece, but it left a lasting impact on both sides. For the Persians, it was a lesson in the limits of power and the importance of adaptability. For the Greeks, it reinforced their sense of identity and independence. The clash between these two worlds would echo through history, shaping the narratives of both civilizations. This chapter of the Persian Empire is remembered not only for its battles, but for the ideas it represented. It showed the tension between expansion and resistance, between unity and independence. It was a moment when the empire faced one of its greatest tests and emerged with both pride and humility. Life within the empire at its peak. While the stories of kings and battles often dominate the history of the Persian Empire, the true strength of the empire lay in the daily lives of its people. At its height, the empire was home to millions of individuals from diverse backgrounds, each contributing to a complex and vibrant society. From the bustling cities to the quiet rural villages, life was shaped by both local traditions and the overarching structure of Persian rule. In major cities such as Babylon, Susa, and Persepolis, life was dynamic and interconnected. Streets were filled with merchants selling goods from across the empire, including textiles, spices, metals, and crafted items. Markets served as centers of trade and social interaction, where people exchanged not only goods, but also ideas and stories. Artisans worked in workshops producing pottery, jewelry, and tools that reflected both local styles and influences from distant regions. Transportation played a key role in maintaining this interconnected world. Travelers moved along the royal road using horses and camels, while carts carried goods between cities. River systems provided additional routes for transport, allowing heavier cargo to be moved efficiently. The presence of well-maintained roads and rest stations made long-distance travel more accessible than ever before. Food varied depending on region, but common staples included grains such as wheat and barley, along with fruits, vegetables, and meats. Bread was a central part of the diet, often accompanied by stews or roasted meats. In wealthier households, meals were more elaborate, featuring a variety of dishes and imported ingredients. Wine was widely consumed and played a role in social and ceremonial occasions. Housing also reflected social status and regional differences. In urban areas, homes range from simple structures made of mud brick to larger residences with multiple rooms and courtyards. Wealthier families enjoyed more elaborate homes with decorative elements and access to amenities. In rural areas, homes were often built using locally available materials and were closely tied to agricultural life. Religion and spirituality were deeply embedded in daily life. The teachings of Zoroastrianism emphasized the importance of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Temples and sacred spaces served as places of worship and community gathering. Religious festivals brought people together, reinforcing a sense of shared values and identity. The empire's administrative system ensured that even distant regions were connected to the central authority. Satraps governed provinces while local officials handled day-to-day matters. Taxes were collected in a structured manner and used to support the infrastructure, military, and royal projects. This system allowed the empire to function efficiently despite its size. Women in the Persian Empire held roles that varied depending on social class and region. Some women in royal and noble families held significant influence, managing estates and participating in economic activities. In other areas, women contributed to agriculture, craft production, and household management. Their roles were essential to the functioning of society, even if they were not always recorded in historical texts. Education and knowledge were also valued. Scribes recorded transactions laws and historical events, preserving the legacy of the empire. Scholars and thinkers exchanged ideas, contributing to advancements in various fields. The blending of cultures within the empire created an environment where knowledge could be shared and developed. Life within the Persian Empire was not without challenges. Natural conditions such as droughts or floods could affect agriculture, while political changes sometimes created uncertainty. However, the overall stability provided by the empire allowed communities to thrive and adapt. This chapter reveals that the Persian Empire was more than its rulers and battles. It was a living civilization shaped by the experiences of its people. Their daily lives, their work and their traditions formed the foundation upon which the empire stood, making it one of the most remarkable societies of the ancient world. The wars that shaped an empire. The Persian Empire was forged not only through diplomacy and administration, but through a series of powerful and often brutal wars that tested its strength and defined its legacy. From its earliest days under Cyrus the Great to its later conflicts with the Greek world, and beyond, warfare remained a constant presence, shaping both the borders and identity of the empire. One of the earliest major campaigns was Cyrus's conquest of Lydia, ruled by Xerxes. This conflict was not merely about territory, but about control of trade routes and wealth. The battle strategies employed by Cyrus demonstrated his adaptability, as he used both traditional infantry and innovative tactics to overcome Lydia's strong cavalry. The fall of Lydia brought immense riches into Persian hands and secured a gateway to the western regions. The conquest of Babylon followed and remains one of the most remarkable military achievements of the ancient world. The city was heavily fortified with massive walls and considered nearly impossible to breach. Yet through careful planning and possibly the diversion of the Euphrates River, Persian forces were able to enter the city with minimal resistance. This victory not only expanded the empire, but also showcased the strategic brilliance of Persian leadership. As the empire expanded, it encountered new and formidable opponents. In Central Asia, Persian forces faced nomadic tribes skilled in mounted warfare. These enemies were fast, unpredictable, and difficult to engage in traditional battles. Persian armies adapted by developing stronger cavalry units and learning to fight in diverse terrains. These campaigns were often long and challenging, requiring endurance and flexibility. The conflicts with the Greek city-states during the Greco-Persian Wars became some of the most famous in history. Under Darius I and later Xerxes I, The empire sought to bring Greece under its control. The Battle of Marathon showed that even a powerful empire could be resisted by determined and well-organized forces. Later battles such as Thermopylae and Salamis highlighted the intensity of these conflicts, where strategy, courage, and environment all played crucial roles. The scale of Persian warfare was immense. Armies could number in the tens or even hundreds of thousands drawn from across the empire. Soldiers brought their own weapons, armor, and fighting styles, creating a diverse and adaptable force. The elite immortals served as the core of the army, providing stability and discipline. Cavalry units, archers, and infantry worked together in coordinated formations designed to overwhelm the enemy. Fortifications and strongholds played a vital role in these wars. Cities were often protected by thick walls and strategically placed towers. Fortresses guarded important routes and borders, ensuring that the empire could defend its territories against invasion. Siege warfare became an important skill, with engineers developing techniques to breach even the strongest defenses. The enemies of Persia were equally formidable. Greek hoplites fought in tightly organized formations, using shields and spears to create an almost impenetrable wall. Nomadic tribes relied on speed and mobility, striking quickly and retreating before a counterattack could be launched. Egyptian forces brought their own traditions and tactics shaped by their long history. Each opponent required a different approach, forcing the Persians to constantly adapt. War also had a profound impact on the people of the empire. Soldiers left their homes to serve in distant lands, while families waited for their return. Victories brought wealth and prestige, but defeats could lead to loss and hardship. The constant movement of armies influenced trade routes and sometimes disrupted daily life. Yet, it also led to the exchange of ideas, technologies, and cultural practices. Through these wars, the Persian Empire demonstrated both its strength and its limitations. It showed the ability to conquer vast territories and integrate diverse peoples, but also revealed the challenges of maintaining control over such a large and varied domain. The lessons learned on the battlefield would shape the strategies and decisions of future rulers. The wars of the Persian Empire are remembered not only for their scale and intensity, but for the stories of courage and resilience they produced. They are a testament to the enduring human struggle for power, survival, and identity within one of the greatest empires the world has ever known. The final fall and enduring lessons. Its ultimate test and gave way to a new era. The decline that began with internal struggles and external pressures reached its climax during the invasion led by Alexander the Great. Alexander's campaign was swift and relentless. His army moved through Asia Minor, defeating Persian forces in a series of decisive battles. At Issus, he faced Darius III and achieved a victory that shook the foundations of the empire. Despite the size and resources of the Persian forces, they struggled to match the coordination and tactics of the Macedonian army. The decisive moment came at the Battle of Gaugamela, where Alexander once again confronted Darius III. The battle took place on a vast plain, where the Persians hoped to use their numbers to their advantage. Yet, Alexander's strategy and leadership proved superior, leading to a decisive defeat for the Persian forces. This battle marked the turning point, after which the empire could no longer recover. As Alexander advanced, he captured key cities, including Babylon and Susa, before reaching Persepolis. The burning of Persepolis became a powerful symbol of the end of the Achaemenid Empire. It was not only the destruction of a city, but the fall of a civilization that had once united vast regions under a single rule. The aftermath of the conquest brought significant changes. The Persian administrative systems and cultural practices were adopted and adapted by Alexander and his successors. This blending of Greek and Persian elements created a new cultural landscape known as the Hellenistic world. Despite the fall of the empire, its influence continued to shape the regions it once controlled. The story of the Persian Empire offers enduring lessons that remain relevant even in the modern world. It demonstrates the importance of leadership, vision, and adaptability. Leaders like Cyrus the Great showed that respect for diversity and inclusion could strengthen a society, while the challenges faced by later rulers highlight the risks of overexpansion and internal division. The empire also teaches the value of infrastructure and organization. The systems developed by Darius I, including roads, communication networks, and administrative divisions, allowed a vast territory to function as a unified whole. These innovations influenced future civilizations and laid the groundwork for modern governance. Another lesson lies in the balance between power and sustainability. The Persian Empire achieved greatness through expansion, but maintaining such a large domain required constant effort and resources. The difficulties faced in managing distant regions and diverse populations reveal the complexities of empire building. Finally, the legacy of the Persian Empire reminds us that no civilization exists in isolation. Its interactions with other cultures, whether through trade diplomacy or conflict, shaped its development and left a lasting impact on the world. The exchange of ideas and practices enriched both Persia and its neighbors, creating a shared history that continues to be studied and appreciated. Today, the echoes of the Persian Empire can still be found in the culture, traditions, and identity of Iran. Its achievements in governance, architecture, and cultural integration remain a source of inspiration and reflection. As this chapter closes, the story of the Persian Empire stands as a testament to human ambition, creativity, and resilience. It is a story of rise and fall, of unity and division, and of the enduring quest to build a society that can stand the test of time. Cities of splendor and power. At the height of the Persian Empire, its cities stood as living symbols of its strength, diversity, and vision. These urban centers were not only places of governance, but also hubs of culture, trade, and daily life, where people from across the empire gathered and interacted. Among the most magnificent of these was Persepolis, a city designed to showcase the grandeur of imperial authority. Persepolis rose from the plains with towering columns, intricate carvings, and vast halls that could host thousands. Delegations from distant lands would arrive bearing gifts representing their regions and cultures. These processions were immortalized in stone. Reliefs depicting people in their traditional clothing carrying offerings that symbolized unity under the Persian king. The Apadana Palace with its grand audience hall became the heart of ceremonial life, where the ruler received envoys and reinforced the bonds of the empire. Another key city was Babylon, a place with a history far older than the Persian Empire itself. Under Persian rule, Babylon continued to thrive as a center of learning, trade, and culture. Its streets were lined with markets, temples, and homes, reflecting a blend of ancient traditions and Persian influence. The Persians respected the heritage of Babylon, maintaining its religious sites and integrating its administrative practices into their own system. Susa served as one of the administrative capitals where decisions that affected the entire empire were made. It was a city of governance, where officials managed the complex machinery of the state. Roads radiated outward from Susa, connecting it to distant provinces and ensuring that communication remained swift and reliable. The movement of messengers, officials, and goods through this network kept the empire functioning as a unified entity. In Egypt, cities like Memphis and Thebes continued to flourish under Persian rule. The Persians adopted local customs and presented themselves as rightful rulers, ensuring stability in the region. Temples were maintained and agricultural production along the Nile remained strong, providing vital resources to the empire. This approach of respecting local traditions allowed the Persians to govern effectively without constant unrest. The design of Persian cities reflected both practicality and beauty. Streets were often organized to facilitate movement and trade, while public spaces allowed for gatherings and social interaction. Buildings were constructed using locally available materials, but often incorporated elements of Persian architectural style, such as columned halls and decorative motifs. Gardens were also an important feature, representing harmony and order and providing spaces for relaxation and reflection. Life within these cities was vibrant and dynamic. Merchants sold goods from across the empire, including spices from India, textiles from Central Asia, and metals from Anatolia. Artisans worked in workshops producing items that ranged from everyday tools to intricate works of art. Scholars and scribes recorded transactions, laws and stories preserving the knowledge of the time. Transportation within cities included carts, animals, and walking, while long-distance travel relied on the extensive road network established by the empire. The presence of inns and rest stations made journeys more manageable and encouraged the movement of people and goods. The diversity of the population added to the richness of city life. People spoke different languages, practiced various religions, and followed unique traditions, yet they coexisted within the framework of Persian rule. This diversity was not seen as a weakness, but as a strength that contributed to the vitality of the empire. These cities were more than physical spaces. They were expressions of an idea that a vast and varied world could be brought together under a single system without losing its individuality. They stood as enduring symbols of what the Persian Empire achieved at its peak, and their influence can still be seen in the remnants that survive. Today, the world beyond Persia. While the Persian Empire dominated much of the New World, it existed alongside other civilizations that were developing in their own ways. Understanding these societies provides a broader view of the era and highlights the interconnected nature of ancient history. To the west, the Greek city-states were experiencing a period of cultural and intellectual growth. Cities like Athens and Sparta developed distinct systems of governance and military organization. Athens became known for its focus on philosophy, art, and early forms of democracy, while Sparta was renowned for its disciplined military society. These differences often led to conflict between the city-states, but also contributed to a rich and diverse cultural landscape. The interactions between the Greeks and the Persians during the Greco-Persian Wars brought these two worlds into direct contact. While the wars were marked by violence, they also facilitated the exchange of ideas and knowledge. Greek historians and writers documented their encounters with Persia, providing valuable insights into the empire from an external perspective. To the south, Egypt continued its long history as a center of civilization. Under Persian rule, it maintained its traditions in art, religion, and agriculture. The Nile River remained the lifeblood of the region, supporting a stable and productive society. Egyptian knowledge in fields such as engineering and medicine influenced the broader empire and contributed to its success. In the east, the Indian subcontinent was home to powerful kingdoms and vibrant cultures. Trade between Persia and these regions brought valuable goods such as spices, textiles, and precious stones into the empire. This exchange also allowed for the sharing of ideas, including advancements in mathematics, astronomy, and philosophy. Further north, nomadic tribes moved across the vast Yankai regions. These groups lived a mobile lifestyle, relying on horses and herding for survival. Their interactions with the Persian Empire ranged from trade to conflict, as they sometimes raided border regions while also serving as valuable allies. or mercenaries. The Persian Empire acted as a bridge connecting these diverse civilizations. Its vast network of roads and trade routes facilitated the movement of goods, people and ideas across great distances. This interconnectedness allowed for a level of cultural exchange that was unprecedented at the time. Challenges also arose from these interactions. Conflicts with neighboring civilizations required constant attention and resources. Differences in culture and political systems sometimes led to misunderstandings and tensions. Yet these challenges also drove innovation and adaptation as the Persians learned from their neighbors and incorporated new ideas into their own system. The world beyond Persia was not static, but constantly evolving. Civilizations rose and fell, ideas spread and transformed, and the balance of power shifted over time. The Persian Empire was both a participant in and a shaper of this dynamic environment, influencing and being influenced by the world around it. This broader perspective reveals that the Persian Empire was part of a larger story of human development. Its achievements were connected to those of other civilizations, and its legacy is intertwined with the history of the ancient world as a whole. The satraps and the art of rule. At the heart of the Persian Empire's ability to govern vast lands lay a system both practical and visionary. This was the satrapy system refined under Darius I, which allowed the empire to function smoothly despite its immense size. Each region of the empire was divided into provinces known as satrapies, and each was governed by a satrap, a representative of the king who acted with authority yet under careful supervision. These satraps were often chosen from noble Persian families or trusted local leaders who understood the customs and needs of their people. Their responsibilities were immense. They collected taxes, maintained order, enforced laws, and ensured loyalty to the king. Yet they were not free to rule without oversight. The Persian system included royal inspectors, sometimes called the eyes and ears of the king, who traveled across the empire to observe and report directly back to the royal court. This balance of power prevented corruption and rebellion from growing unchecked. It also allowed local cultures to continue thriving under Persian rule. In regions such as Egypt, Babylon, and Anatolia, local traditions, laws, and religious practices were preserved. This approach fostered a sense of stability and cooperation as people felt respected rather than oppressed. Communication was essential in maintaining this system. Messages traveled along the royal road, which connected major cities like Susa and Sardis. Couriers rode swiftly, changing horses at stations along the route, ensuring that news and commands could cross vast distances in a matter of days. This network allowed the king to remain informed and responsive even when events unfolded far from the capital. The satrapy system also supported economic activity. Taxes collected from each region were used to fund infrastructure, military campaigns, and royal projects. These resources flowed back into the empire, creating a cycle of growth and development. Trade was encouraged and protected, allowing merchants to move goods safely across borders. Life under this system was generally stable. Farmers worked their land, artisans produced goods, and traders engaged in commerce, knowing that the empire provided a level of security. Disputes were handled through local courts, which operated within the framework of Persian law while respecting regional customs. However, this system was not without its challenges. Some satraps grew powerful and ambitious, leading to occasional revolts. The vast distances involved made it difficult to respond quickly to every issue. Maintaining loyalty across such a diverse empire required constant attention and strong leadership from the center. Despite these challenges, the satrapy system remains one of the most significant achievements of the Persian Empire. It demonstrated that a large and diverse territory could be governed effectively through a combination of central authority and local autonomy. This model would influence future empires and continues to be studied as an example of successful administration. Through this system, the Persian Empire was able to maintain unity while embracing diversity, creating a structure that supported both stability and growth. It was a testament to the ingenuity of its leaders and the adaptability of its people. Trade, wealth, and the flow of ideas. The Persian Empire was not only a political and military power, but also an economic giant that connected distant regions through trade and commerce. Its vast territory served as a bridge between East and West, allowing goods, ideas, and cultures to move freely across continents. Caravans traveled along well-established routes carrying goods such as silk, spices, gold, ivory, and precious stones. These journeys could take weeks or months, crossing deserts, mountains, and plains. Along the way, travelers stopped at caravanserais, where they could rest, exchange news, and prepare for the next stage of their journey. These rest stops became centers of interaction, where people from different cultures met and shared their experiences. The introduction of standardized currency under Darius I made trade more efficient. The gold daric became widely accepted, allowing merchants to conduct transactions with confidence. This innovation reduced the complexity of trade and encouraged economic activity across the empire. Markets in cities like Babylon, Susa, and Persepolis were vibrant places filled with goods from across the known world. Traders displayed textiles from Central Asia, spices from India, and crafted items from local artisans. The exchange of goods was accompanied by the exchange of ideas as merchants shared knowledge about distant lands, cultures, and technologies. Agriculture remained the foundation of the economy. Farmers cultivated crops such as wheat, barley, dates, and grapes using irrigation systems that maximized productivity. In fertile regions like the Nile Valley, agriculture thrived, providing surplus food that supported urban populations and trade. The empire's infrastructure played a crucial role in supporting this economic activity. Roads, bridges, and ports facilitated the movement of goods, while security ensured that trade routes remained safe. The Persian administration understood that prosperity depended on the free flow of commerce and took measures to protect and encourage it. Trade also brought cultural exchange. Artistic styles, architectural techniques, and religious ideas spread across the empire, influencing local traditions. The teachings of Zoroastrianism coexisted with other beliefs, creating a rich and diverse spiritual landscape. This blending of cultures contributed to the unique identity of the Persian Empire. Wealth generated through trade funded monumental projects and supported the royal court. Palaces, temples, and public works reflected the prosperity of the empire and served as symbols of its power. At the same time, this wealth improved the quality of life for many people, providing opportunities for growth and development. However, economic activity also faced challenges. Natural disasters, conflicts, and political changes could disrupt trade routes and affect production. The empire had to remain adaptable to maintain stability and ensure continued prosperity. The flow of goods and ideas within the Persian Empire created a dynamic and interconnected world. It allowed for innovation and collaboration while strengthening the bonds between different regions. This economic network was one of the key factors behind the success and longevity of the empire. Through trade and commerce, the Persian Empire not only accumulated wealth, but also fostered a spirit of connection and exchange that enriched its civilization and left a lasting legacy on the history of the world. Faith, fire, and the moral order. At the core of the Persian Empire's identity was a spiritual framework that shaped how people understood the world and their place within it. This belief system was rooted in Zoroastrianism, a faith that emphasized the eternal struggle between truth and falsehood, light and darkness. It was not merely a religion, but a guide to living that influenced governance, law, and daily behavior across the empire. The teachings of the prophet Zoroaster spoke of a single supreme God, Ahura Mazda, who represented wisdom and truth. Followers were encouraged to live by the principles of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. This simple yet powerful philosophy shaped the moral fabric of Persian society and influenced how rulers approached their responsibilities. Fire held a special significance within this belief system, symbolizing purity and the presence of divine truth. Fire temples were established, where sacred flames were carefully maintained by priests. These spaces were not grand in the same way as palaces, but carried deep spiritual meaning. People would gather to pray, reflect, and seek guidance, reinforcing a sense of unity and purpose within their communities. The influence of religion extended into governance. Kings such as Cyrus the Great and Darius I were seen as chosen to uphold order and justice. Their role was not only to rule, but to maintain the balance between good and evil within the world. This belief gave a moral dimension to leadership and encouraged rulers to act with fairness and wisdom. Religious tolerance was a defining feature of the empire. While Zoroastrianism played a central role, the Persians allowed conquered peoples to practice their own religions. Temples were preserved, rituals continued, and local beliefs were respected. This approach reduced conflict and fostered loyalty among diverse populations. Daily life was influenced by these spiritual values. People sought to live honestly and contribute positively to their communities. Rituals and festivals marked important moments in the year, bringing families and neighbors together. These gatherings reinforced shared values and created a sense of continuity across generations. The moral teachings of the empire also influenced its legal system. Laws were designed to promote fairness and protect individuals while maintaining order. Judges were expected to act impartially, guided by principles of truth and justice. This connection between law and morality helped create a stable society where people felt secure. However, the practice of religion was not without challenges. Differences in belief sometimes led to tension, particularly in regions with strong local traditions. Balancing unity with diversity required careful management and a commitment to tolerance. The spiritual life of the Persian Empire added depth to its identity. It was not only a realm of power and wealth, but also a society guided by ideas of morality and purpose. This combination of strength and principle contributed to its success and left a lasting impression on the civilizations that followed. Through its faith, the Persian Empire sought to create a world where order prevailed over chaos and truth triumphed over falsehood. This vision shaped its history and continues to resonate as a powerful example of the role of belief in shaping human civilization. The long shadow of Persia. Even after the fall of the Achaemenid Empire, the influence of Persia did not fade, but instead continued to shape the course of history in profound ways. The conquest by Alexander the Great marked the end of one era, but also the beginning of another in which Persian ideas and systems would merge with new influences. Alexander recognized the strength of the Persian administrative system and chose to preserve much of it. He adopted elements of Persian dress court rituals and governance, blending them with Greek traditions. This fusion created a new cultural landscape that extended across his empire and beyond. After Alexander's death, his empire was divided among his generals, leading to the rise of new powers such as the Seleucid and Parthian states. These kingdoms inherited and adapted Persian systems of rule, ensuring that the legacy of the empire endured. Over time, new dynasties would rise, including the Sasanian Empire, which revived many aspects of ancient Persian culture and governance. The land that was once the heart of the Persian Empire became the foundation of the modern nation of Iran. Here, the echoes of ancient traditions can still be found in language, art, and cultural practices. The Persian language itself evolved but retained connections to its ancient roots, preserving a link to the past. Architectural influences from the empire continued to inspire later constructions. The Grand Daush Hadid halls and intricate carving seen in places like Persepolis influenced building styles across the region. Even in ruins, these structures tell the story of a civilization that valued beauty and craftsmanship. The ideas of governance developed by leaders such as Darius I continued to influence political systems. The concept of dividing territories into manageable regions with local administrators became a model for future empires. Infrastructure projects such as roads and communication networks also set standards that would be followed for centuries. Culturally, the Persian Empire contributed to a tradition of storytelling, poetry, and art that would flourish in later periods. These expressions reflected the values, experiences, and imagination of the people, creating a rich cultural heritage that endures to this day. The lessons of the Persian Empire extend beyond its historical achievements. It demonstrated the importance of adaptability and the ability to learn from others. Its success was built on the integration of diverse cultures and ideas, while its decline highlighted the challenges of maintaining unity over vast distances. In the broader story of human history, the Persian Empire stands as a bridge between ancient civilizations and later developments. It connected regions, facilitated exchange, and influenced the course of events in ways that continue to be felt. As time moved forward, the empire itself faded into history, but its legacy remained alive, carried forward by the people who inherited its traditions and built upon its foundations. The long shadow of Persia reminds us that the impact of a civilization is not measured only by its duration, but by the ideas and innovations it leaves behind. The story continues in the echoes of language, architecture, governance, and culture that trace their origins back to this remarkable empire. It is a legacy that endures, shaping the world in subtle yet profound ways long after the empire itself has passed into memory. The royal court and the lives of kings. At the center of the Persian Empire stood the royal court, a place of immense power, ceremony, and influence, where decisions were made that shaped the fate of millions. The king, known as the King of Kings, was seen not only as a Sijar ruler, but as a guardian of order, chosen to uphold truth and justice. Figures such as Cyrus the Great, Darius I, and Xerxes I, each brought their own character and vision to this role, shaping the empire in different ways. The court itself was a carefully structured environment filled with nobles, advisors, generals, and officials. Each person had a defined role, and their position reflected their status and loyalty. The king sat at the top, surrounded by those he trusted most. Audiences were conducted with great ceremony, where visitors approached with respect and presented their requests or tributes. These rituals reinforced the authority of the king and the unity of the empire. Life within the court was both luxurious and demanding. Palaces such as those in Persepolis and Susa were filled with beautiful decorations, fine textiles, and elaborate architecture. Gardens provided spaces of calm with flowing water and carefully arranged plants, symbolizing harmony and order. Yet behind this beauty was the constant pressure of governance, as the king and his advisors managed the complexities of a vast empire. The daily routine of a king involved meetings with officials, reviewing reports from across the empire, and making decisions on matters of law, trade, and military strategy. Messages arrived from distant satrapies bringing news of developments, challenges, and opportunities. The king had to balance competing interests, ensuring stability while maintaining authority. Family life within the court also played an important role. Royal marriages were often arranged to strengthen alliances and ensure continuity. Queens and royal women could hold significant influence, managing estates and participating in economic activities. Their roles, while sometimes less visible, were essential to the functioning of the court. However, life at the top was not without danger. Intrigue and rivalry were constant threats as individuals sought power and influence. Assassinations, plots, and betrayals were part of the reality of court life. Maintaining loyalty required both wisdom and vigilance, and even the most powerful rulers had to navigate these challenges carefully. The personalities of the kings shaped the direction of the empire. Cyrus was remembered for his compassion and vision, Darius for his organization and innovation, and Xerxes for his ambition and determination. Each faced different challenges and left a unique mark on history. Their decisions influenced not only their own time, but the future of the empire. The royal court was more than a place of governance. It was a symbol of the empire itself. Its ceremonies reflected unity, its decisions shaped policy, and its people embodied the diversity of the lands they represented. It was a microcosm of the Persian world, where power, culture, and tradition came together. Through the lives of its kings and the workings of its court, the Persian Empire revealed the human side of its greatness. It showed that behind the vast structures and armies were individuals making choices, facing challenges, and striving to maintain a balance between authority and responsibility. The lessons of an empire. As the long story of the Persian Empire unfolds, from its rise under Cyrus the Great to its transformation after Alexander, the Great One can see a pattern of achievement, challenge, and enduring influence. The empire's journey offers lessons that continue to resonate across time, providing insight into the nature of power, leadership, and human society. One of the most important lessons is the value of inclusion and respect for diversity. The Persian Empire succeeded in uniting a vast array of cultures, languages, and traditions by allowing them to maintain their identities while being part of a larger system. This approach created stability and loyalty, demonstrating that strength can come from embracing differences rather than suppressing them. Another lesson lies in the importance of strong and thoughtful leadership. Leaders such as Darius, effective governance requires organization foresight and the ability to adapt to changing circumstances. The systems he developed allowed the empire to function efficiently and set a standard for future civilizations. The empire also highlights the significance of infrastructure and communication. Roads, networks, and administrative systems enabled the flow of information, goods, and people, creating a connected world. These innovations were essential to the empire's success and remain relevant in modern societies where connectivity is key. At the same time, the Persian experience reveals the challenges of maintaining a vast and complex system. Overexpansion, internal divisions, and external threats all contributed to its decline. These challenges remind us that growth must be balanced with sustainability and that unity requires constant effort. The cultural and intellectual contributions of the empire demonstrate the power of exchange and collaboration. By connecting different regions, the Persian Empire facilitated the sharing of ideas that enriched its own civilization and influenced others. This exchange shows that progress often comes from interaction and openness. Finally, the legacy of the Persian Empire teaches us about resilience. Even after its fall, its ideas, traditions, and systems continued to influence the world. The land that was once its heart remains vibrant in the form of Iran, carrying forward the memory and heritage of this Pari civilization. The story of the Persian Empire is not just a tale of the past, but a reflection of enduring principles that shape human history. It reminds us that greatness is achieved through vision, effort, and adaptability, and that the impact of a civilization extends far beyond its time. As this chapter closes, the narrative stands as a continuous voice echoing through time, telling of a people who rose from humble beginnings to build one. of the greatest empires the world has ever known. Their journey filled with triumphs, struggles and lessons continues to inspire and inform, offering a window into the possibilities and challenges of human achievement. The soldiers and warriors of Persia. Behind the zhuzh and glory of the Persian Empire stood the men who fought its battles and defended its borders. These soldiers came from every corner of the empire, from the mountains of the Iranian plateau to the river valleys of Egypt and the plains of Central Asia. Each brought their own traditions, weapons and styles of fighting, creating an army that was as diverse as the empire itself. At the heart of this military force were the elite warriors known as the Immortals. This unit maintained a constant number of soldiers as any fallen member was immediately replaced, giving the impression that they could not be diminished. They were highly trained, disciplined and loyal, serving as both the king's personal guard and a powerful force on the battlefield. Their presence alone was enough to inspire confidence among allies and fear among enemies. The Persian army was organized with careful planning. Infantry units formed the backbone, carrying spears, shields and bows. Archers played a crucial role, raining arrows upon enemy lines before close combat began. Cavalry units added speed and flexibility, allowing the army to adapt to different terrains and strategies. In some campaigns, war chariots were used to break enemy formations, creating openings for infantry to advance. Training was an essential part of a soldier's life. From a young age, Persian boys were taught skills such as riding shooting arrows and speaking the truth, reflecting the values of their society. Discipline and loyalty were emphasized, ensuring that soldiers could be relied upon in the chaos of battle. The experience of war was both harsh and defining. Soldiers marched across vast distances, facing extreme conditions from scorching deserts to freezing mountains. They carried supplies, weapons, and the weight of responsibility, knowing that the fate of the empire could depend on their actions. Camps were established during campaigns where soldiers rested, prepared, and shared stories of their homelands, creating bonds that transcended cultural differences. The enemies they faced were formidable. Greek hoplites fought with strong shields and long spears, forming tight formations that were difficult to break. Nomadic warriors attacked with speed and precision, using horses to outmaneuver larger forces. Each battle required careful strategy and adaptability, testing the skills of Persian commanders and their troops. Leadership played a crucial role in these conflicts. Kings such as Xerxes I often led their armies or directed campaigns, ensuring unity and purpose. Generals were responsible for organizing troops and executing strategies, balancing aggression with caution. Their decisions could mean the difference between victory and defeat. Despite the hardships, soldiers were rewarded for their service. Victories brought wealth, honor, and recognition, while loyalty to the king was often met with gifts and positions of authority. This system encouraged dedication and strengthened the bond between the satrap and the state. The role of the Persian soldier was not only to fight, but to represent the strength and unity of the empire. Their diversity reflected the vastness of the lands they came from, and their cooperation demonstrated the power of a shared purpose. Through their courage and resilience, these warriors played a vital role in building and maintaining one of the greatest empires in history. Their stories of bravery, sacrifice, and determination remain an essential part of the Persian legacy, the enduring echo of a civilization. As the narrative of the Persian Empire reaches further into reflection, it becomes clear that its story does not truly end but continues to echo through time. From the rise under Cyrus the Great to the transformation following Alexander the Great, The empire created a legacy that extends far beyond its height. The systems of governance developed by leaders like Darius I laid the groundwork for future empires, influencing how large territories could be managed effectively. The idea of dividing regions into provinces with local administrators remains a fundamental principle in governance even today. Culturally, the empire fostered a spirit of exchange that enriched not only its own people, but also those it connected with. Art, architecture, and storytelling flourished, creating a heritage that would inspire generations. The ruins of places like Persepolis stand as silent witnesses to a time of awe, reminding us of what was achieved through vision and effort. The values promoted by Zoroastrianism, including the importance of truth and moral responsibility, continue to resonate. These principles influenced later religious and philosophical traditions, shaping the way people understand ethics and the nature of good and evil. Even in its decline, the Persian Empire demonstrated resilience. Its people adapted to new rulers and changing circumstances, preserving their identity while contributing to the evolving world around them. This ability to endure and transform is one of the most powerful aspects of its legacy. In the modern era, the land once at the heart of the empire is known as Iran, where the echoes of ancient Persia can still be felt in language, culture, and tradition. The connection between past and present serves as a reminder that history is not distant, but alive within the identities of people and nations. Persian Empire teaches us that greatness is not only measured by conquest, but by the ability to build systems that endure, to create connections between diverse peoples, and to leave behind ideas that continue to inspire. Its story is one of ambition, creativity, struggle, and transformation, a reflection of the human journey itself. As this chapter closes, the voice of history continues to speak, telling of an empire that rose from humble beginnings to shape the world in profound ways. Its legacy remains woven into the fabric of civilization, a testament to what humanity can achieve when guided by vision, determination, and a willingness to embrace the richness of diversity. The roads of empire. One of the most remarkable achievements of the Persian Empire was its extensive network of roads, most famously the Royal Road, which stretched over 2,000 kilometers, connecting cities from Susa to Sardis. These roads were more than mere pathways. They were the arteries of the empire, carrying messages, troops, and trade goods across vast distances with unprecedented speed and efficiency. Stations were established at regular intervals where messengers could change horses, rest, and resupply. These relay stations allowed information to travel faster than ever before, with some accounts describing messages crossing the empire in a matter of days. This system ensured that the king remained informed about distant provinces and could respond to crises or opportunities quickly. Merchants and travelers also benefited from the roads. They provided safer passage for caravans carrying goods like silk from the east, gold from Lydia, and spices from India. Inns and markets grew along the routes, fostering local economies and cultural exchange. Traders brought not only products but also stories, technologies, and ideas, making the roads a vital conduit for knowledge and innovation. Construction of these roads reflected careful planning and engineering. Stone foundations, drainage systems, and clear signage ensured durability and usability through harsh weather and challenging terrain. Bridges crossed rivers and causeways, traversed marshes, demonstrating the empire's capacity to overcome natural obstacles to maintain unity. The roads also played a crucial role in military campaigns. Armies could move more swiftly, supply lines were maintained efficiently, and reinforcements could be dispatched to threatened regions. This logistical advantage often proved decisive in the empire's defense and expansion. The Royal Road became a symbol of Persian ingenuity and foresight. It represented the empire's understanding that control over territory was as much about communication and administration as it was about conquest. The roads helped weave together a vast and culturally diverse realm into a cohesive political entity, enabling the Persian Empire to function on a scale unmatched by most ancient civilizations. Through these roads, the Persian Empire connected people, ideas, and goods across continents, creating a network that laid the foundation for future civilizations and demonstrated the power of infrastructure. As a tool of governance and cultural cohesion, artisans, culture, and daily life, while kings, soldiers, and roads defined the structure of the Persian Empire. The people who lived, worked, and created within its cities shaped its culture and daily life. Artisans played a central role in expressing the empire's identity through architecture, sculpture, textiles, and metalwork. Craftsmen in cities like Susa and Persepolis created intricate carvings depicting processions of tribute, bearers, battles, and mythical creatures. These works were not merely decorative, they communicated the empire's values, history, and power. Metalworkers forged weapons, jewelry, and ceremonial items, while potters and weavers produced everyday goods that were both functional and artistically refined. Music, poetry, and storytelling were essential aspects of cultural life. Bards and performers entertained in palaces and marketplaces alike, preserving history and moral lessons through oral tradition. Festivals marked religious and seasonal events, bringing communities together and reinforcing a sense of shared identity across the empire's diverse regions. Daily life varied depending on social status and region. In urban centers, people traded goods, attended schools, and participated in civic and religious activities. In rural areas, farmers cultivated crops like barley, wheat, and dates, using irrigation systems to maximize production. Families raised livestock, maintained gardens, and engaged in crafts to support their households. Food reflected the empire's diversity. Markets offered grains, fruits, vegetables, dairy products, meats, and spices from across the empire. Meals often included flatbreads, stews, and roasted meats flavored with herbs. Communal feasts were common during festivals or after military victories, reinforcing social bonds. Transportation within cities included walking, riding animals such as donkeys and horses, and using carts. Long-distance travel relied on the network of roads, caravans, and riverboats, which enabled merchants and officials to traverse the empire efficiently. Education and literacy were valued, especially among scribes, priests, and administrators. Schools taught reading, writing, mathematics, law, and religious teachings, ensuring that future generations could maintain the empire's complex administration and cultural heritage. Through the work of artisans, scholars, and ordinary citizens, the Persian Empire created a vibrant and interconnected culture. Its daily life, commerce, and creative expression contributed to the richness of the civilization, making it not only politically powerful, but also culturally influential in the ancient world. The battles that shaped Persia. The Persian Empire's history is inseparable from the wars and battles that defined its rise, consolidation, and defense. From its earliest campaigns under Cyrus the Great to the massive confrontations with Greek city-states under Xerxes I, each conflict tested the empire's military strategy, cohesion, and resilience. One of the earliest major campaigns was Cyrus's conquest of Lydia in the mid-6th century BCE. Lydia, in what is now Western Turkey, was a wealthy and powerful kingdom known for its gold deposits and coinage. Cyrus faced a formidable army led by King Croesus, yet through careful strategy and the use of both cavalry and infantry, the Persians overcame Lydia. This victory not only brought immense wealth to the empire, but also demonstrated the effectiveness of Persian military organization. Egypt was another critical region where the Persians faced both opportunity and resistance. After conquering Egypt in 525 BCE, Persian rulers installed satraps to govern, respecting local traditions while maintaining central control. Battles were often more political than military, as managing the loyalty of local elites and ensuring the productivity of the Nile Valley was essential to sustaining the empire. However, revolts occasionally erupted, requiring swift military intervention to restore order. The Greco-Persian Wars represent some of the most famous and dramatic confrontations in the empire's history. Under Darius I and later Xerxes I, Persia launched campaigns to subdue the independent Greek city-states. Battles like Marathon, Thermopylae and Salamis were immense in scale, involving tens of thousands of soldiers, warships and complex strategies. Greek hoplites, known for their tight phalanx formation, challenged Persian forces, forcing adjustments in tactics and illustrating that sheer numbers were not always decisive. Despite some defeats, these campaigns showcased the Persian Empire's capacity to mobilize massive armies across vast distances, coordinate logistics over thousands of kilometers, and integrate troops from different cultures into a cohesive fighting force. Commanders relied on intelligence from scouts, alliances with local leaders, and careful deployment of cavalry and archers to achieve objectives. Internal revolts were another constant military challenge. Regions such as Babylon occasionally rose against Persian rule, requiring both diplomatic and military responses. Persian generals often combined negotiation, tribute, and strategic force to reintegrate rebellious provinces, reflecting the empire's preference for stability over destruction when possible. Warfare was brutal and exacting. Soldiers endured harsh conditions, long marches, and the uncertainty of battle. Yet victories brought wealth, honor, and political leverage, while defeats prompted reforms in strategy and leadership. The legacy of these battles influenced not only Persia's military evolution, but also the tactics of neighboring civilizations who learned from the empire's successes and failures. Through its campaigns, the Persian Empire demonstrated that power required more than conquest. It demanded administration, logistics, loyalty, and adaptation. Each battle, from Marathon to the internal revolts, shaped the empire's identity, tested its cohesion, and left lessons that would resonate in military history for generations. Forts, palaces, and places of interest. The Persian Empire's physical landscape was marked by monumental architecture that reflected its power, culture, and administrative sophistication. Palaces, forts, temples, and ceremonial sites were not merely functional, they symbolized authority, divine favor, and the unity of a vast and diverse empire. Persepolis stands as the crown jewel of Persian architectural achievement. Its grand halls, towering columns, and intricately carved reliefs celebrated both the empire's might and the diversity of its subjects. Processional staircases depicted representatives from each satrapy bearing tribute, a visual statement of the empire's reach and cohesion. Susa, another capital, combined administrative efficiency with cultural grandeur. Palaces and official buildings facilitated governance, while gardens and residential quarters reflected the Persian appreciation for beauty and comfort. Royal inscriptions and reliefs served both to glorify the king and to communicate authority to officials and citizens alike. Fortifications were crucial to the empire's defense. Strategic locations such as the Pasargadae and the fortresses along the Zagros Mountains provided protection against invaders and revolts. These forts were often equipped with walls, towers, and defensive ditches designed to withstand both siege engines and prolonged attacks. Garrisoned with trained soldiers, they allowed Persia to control key passes and trade routes. Temples and religious sites were central to Persian society. Fire temples preserved sacred flames, while monumental religious structures in cities like Babylon reflected both local traditions and Zoroastrian principles. These buildings were places of worship, ceremony, and community gathering, reinforcing moral and spiritual cohesion across the empire. Smaller towns and settlements were often organized around markets, administrative offices, and irrigation systems, ensuring that daily life functioned smoothly. Roads connected these sites to larger urban centers, enabling communication, trade, and governance. The combination of military, administrative, and ceremonial architecture demonstrated the empire's holistic vision. Governance, defense, culture, and spirituality were integrated into the very landscape. These sites left a lasting imprint on architecture and urban planning, influencing civilizations for centuries. By creating spaces that were functional, symbolic, and beautiful, the Persian Empire reinforced its authority, inspired loyalty, and projected a vision of a unified world under its rule. The ruins today continue to tell the story of a civilization that valued both practicality and grandeur. Persian society and social structure. Life in the Persian Empire was shaped by a clearly defined social hierarchy that balanced governance, military service, religious duties, and ordinary work. At the top of this hierarchy was the king, or king of kings, whose authority extended across the entire empire. Below him were nobles, satraps, military leaders, and priests who played critical roles in administration, defense, and spiritual guidance. Nobles and officials held land and wealth, often inherited or granted as rewards for service. They managed estates, collected taxes, and oversaw local governance. Satraps, appointed by the king, governed provinces with relative autonomy, but under strict oversight from the central administration. Their responsibilities included maintaining order, implementing laws, collecting tributes, and reporting on local conditions. The military formed another pillar of society. Soldiers, including the elite immortals, were highly trained and disciplined. Military service was both an honor and a duty, and soldiers could gain social mobility through bravery, loyalty, and skill. Campaigns connected individuals from diverse regions, fostering loyalty to the empire rather than to local tribes alone. Priests and religious leaders held spiritual authority, guiding communities and overseeing rituals in fire temples and other sacred spaces. Their role reinforced moral and ethical values central to Zoroastrian teachings, including truth, justice, and respect for order. Religious tolerance toward local practices further integrated the empire's diverse populations. Merchants, artisans, and craftsmen made up the backbone of the economy. Markets bustled with activity, showcasing textiles, pottery, metalwork, and spices. Artisans preserved cultural traditions while contributing to the wealth and prestige of urban centers. Trade allowed for the exchange of goods, ideas, and artistic styles, enriching both local and imperial culture. Farmers and laborers provided the essential foundation for society. Irrigation systems enabled productive agriculture, supplying food to cities and surplus for trade. Rural communities were structured around family, work, and local customs, while maintaining loyalty to imperial authority. Social mobility was possible, but limited. Merit, service, or loyalty could elevate individuals to positions of responsibility, while failure or disloyalty could result in demotion or punishment. Despite this, the Persian system valued the contribution of all social classes to maintain cohesion across the empire. Education and literacy, particularly among scribes and officials, were crucial for the administration of the empire. Schools taught reading, writing, mathematics, and law, ensuring that government, trade, and culture could operate smoothly. This investment in knowledge helped sustain the empire's bureaucracy and facilitated the flow of information across vast distances. Persian society was thus a complex tapestry of interdependent roles. Each individual, from king to farmer, had a place that contributed to the empire's stability and prosperity. This structure enabled the Persian Empire to manage a vast and diverse population effectively, balancing authority, tradition, and innovation. The decline and fall of the Persian Empire. Despite its remarkable achievements, the Persian Empire eventually faced challenges that led to its decline. Internal pressures, external invasions, and the sheer complexity of managing such a vast territory contributed to its weakening over time. The succession of kings sometimes produced rulers less capable than their predecessors. Ambition, court intrigue, and the occasional mismanagement of satraps undermined the central authority. Rebellions in provinces like Babylonia, Egypt, and Anatolia drained resources and required repeated military intervention, weakening the empire's cohesion. External threats also grew more formidable. The rise of Macedonia under Alexander the Great presented a new challenge that the Persians struggled to meet. Alexander's campaigns exploited both military strategy and political instability within the empire, ultimately leading to its conquest in the 4th century BCE. Despite these setbacks, Persia's legacy persisted. Administrative systems, roads, and infrastructure remained in use under new rulers. Cultural, artistic, and religious traditions continued to influence successor states, including the Seleucid, Parthian, and later Sasanian empires. The decline of the Persian Empire also teaches lessons about the limits of expansion and the importance of sustainable governance. Overextension, internal division, and underestimating emerging powers can erode even the greatest empires. Persia's fall was not sudden, but the result of accumulated challenges, illustrating the delicate balance required to maintain vast territories. Yet the empire's influence endured far beyond its political collapse. Its ideas on governance, cultural integration, trade networks, and infrastructure continued to shape civilizations across the Middle East, Central Asia, and beyond for centuries. Persian legacy became a foundation upon which later empires built their own systems of rule, culture, and administration. In reflecting on the fall of the Persian Empire, one sees both the vulnerability and resilience of human civilization. Its decline reminds us that power is temporary, without careful management, but its enduring contributions demonstrate that the impact of an empire can transcend its political existence.